You know the feeling. Your phone lights up, there's a number in your bank account that wasn't there this morning, and for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute if you're lucky, everything feels fine. You feel like you're on top of it, like this month is going to be different, like you've finally got some breathing room. And then, 10 days later, you open the same app, and that number that felt so solid, so real, it's just half of what it was, sometimes less. And you're sitting there doing the mental archaeology, trying to excavate where it all went. Was it the dinners, the subscriptions, that thing you bought and half forgot about, the weekend that felt cheap at the time but clearly wasn't? You genuinely don't know. And that's the part that haunts you. It's not even the money, it's the mystery, the creeping suspicion that you are somehow leaking from the bottom, and no matter how much comes in at the top, the level never quite rises. And here's where most financial advice fails you completely. Because the answer you've been sold, the answer the entire personal finance industry has been screaming at you for 2 decades, is track everything. Budget harder. Download another app. Be more disciplined. That is not just wrong. It is counterproductive. And in this video, I'm going to prove it to you. We're going to go through the psychology, the mechanics, and the exact 15-minute routine that replaces all of it permanently. Here is what is actually true. Payday is the most dangerous 24 hours of your entire financial month, and budgeting apps will not save you. Willpower will not save you. Tracking your oat milk latte will not save you. But a 15-minute automated protocol set up once, run on autopilot forever, will. This is the Payday Protocol. Let's get into it. To understand why this system works, you first have to understand why you don't. And I mean that with zero judgment, because this isn't a character flaw. This is neuroscience. The moment your paycheck hits your account, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical triggered by winning, by social validation, by sugar. You get a hit of it just from seeing the number go up. And dopamine doesn't make you careful. Dopamine makes you optimistic. It makes you feel like you have more than you do. It inflates your perceived wealth in real time. It is, quite literally, a distortion of reality, and it happens to almost every human being on the planet every single payday. This is why people make their worst financial decisions in the 24 to 48 hours after payday, not because they're stupid, because they're chemically compromised. The spontaneous dinner, the online cart you've been sitting on for 2 weeks, the treat yourself justification, the I'll figure it out later logic, the subscription upgrade you didn't need, the thing that was technically on sale. That's not laziness. That is a dopamine-flooded prefrontal cortex failing to override your limbic system every single month. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, because even after the dopamine fades, even when you're 3 weeks into the month and the initial rush is long gone, there's a second, quieter mechanism that keeps draining you. It's called Parkinson's law. You've probably heard the original. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Cyril Northcote Parkinson coined it in 1955 as a satirical observation about bureaucracy. But what nobody talks about, what the finance world almost completely ignores, is the financial version of this law. And it is arguably more devastating than the dopamine spike. Expenses will always expand to consume the exact amount of money visible in your checking account. Read that again. Not the money you have, the money that is visible. If you see £3,000 in your account, your brain calibrates its sense of normal spending around £3,000. It feels like there's room, so you spend like there's room. Not recklessly, not obviously, just loosely. The slightly nicer restaurant instead of the local one, the Uber instead of the bus because it's raining, the extra round, the upsized order. Individually, none of these decisions feel significant. Collectively, they hollow out your month. Gradually, unconsciously, imperceptibly, until there isn't room. And this happens every month, without fail, without drama, without you even noticing until it's already done. This is not a discipline problem. This is an architecture problem. The traditional advice will tell you, make a budget, track your spending, know where every pound goes. But here's the psychological reality of that advice.
It puts you in charge of resisting your own brain every single day. You have to constantly monitor your own impulses, second-guess your own decisions, and feel guilty about normal human choices. That's not a financial strategy. That's a willpower endurance contest. And here is the thing about willpower that the finance industry conveniently never mentions. It is a finite resource. Research by Roy Baumeister, the psychologist who coined the term ego depletion, consistently showed that self-control operates like a muscle. It fatigues. Every decision you make, including trivial ones, draws from the same limited reservoir. Pointedly. So by the time you're standing at a checkout on a Friday evening after a long week of work, after 100 small decisions, after resisting 40 other temptations, your willpower tank is somewhere near empty. And that's precisely when Parkinson's law hits you hardest. You will lose that contest. Not sometimes, chronically. The wealthy don't win at money because they have more discipline than you. They win because they build systems that don't require discipline. They take the human, the emotional, dopamine-spiked, Parkinson's law-infected, and ego-depleted human almost entirely out of the equation. That is the only shift that actually works. Not trying harder, not tracking more obsessively, removing yourself as the decision-maker. That is the shift this protocol creates. So, let's build the machine.
The core of this entire system is something I call the three-pipe system, and the name is intentional. Think of your paycheck as water, pressurized, flowing in on payday. If it hits one big tank, one main checking account, it sloshes around, it evaporates, it gets warm and stagnant and disappears in ways you can't explain. But if you route that water through three separate pipes the second it arrives, each pipe carrying a specific predetermined allocation to a specific destination, now you have infrastructure. Now you have control without effort. Now you have a system that operates identically whether you're having a good month or a terrible one, whether you're motivated or burned out, whether you remembered to be financially responsible or completely forgot about it. That's the point. The system doesn't care how you feel, it just runs. Here's how it works. Pipe 1, the vault. This is your offensive pipe, your wealth accumulation engine. The moment your paycheck lands, not the next morning, not when you feel like it, not when the markets look good, the moment it lands, an automated transfer fires. 15 to 20% of your take-home pay routes immediately into a completely separate account, ideally a stocks and shares ISA or a brokerage account invested in low-cost index funds. Something that is not your bank, something with friction, meaning you can't casually move the money back with a tap. You don't see it move, you don't confirm it, you don't consult your horoscope or check the FTSE or decide whether today is a good day to invest. The automation decides, and it is always, always a good day to invest when you're playing a 30-year game. This is the pipe that quietly and invisibly turns a normal income into generational wealth, not because you're investing some revolutionary amount, because you're investing consistently, month after month after month. The automation removes the single biggest barrier to long-term investing, which isn't knowledge, and it isn't even money. It's the chronic human tendency to find a reason to delay. I'll start next month when things settle down. I'll wait until I've paid off this one thing. I'll invest more when I earn more. These are not financial strategies. They are procrastination wrapped in logic. And the automation makes all of them impossible because the decision has already been made before you wake up. But here's the critical psychological piece. Because the money never appears in your checking account, your brain never calibrates around it. Parkinson's law cannot touch money it cannot see. Your brain doesn't spend a pound it never knew existed. You can't spend what isn't visible. That's not a metaphor. That is the entire strategy. Pipe 2, the baseline. This is your defensive pipe, your financial immune system, the thing that makes your life structurally sound regardless of everything else. Before you set this system up, just once when you first build it, you do a single calculation. You add up every non-negotiable fixed monthly obligation, rent or mortgage, utility debits, minimum debt payments, insurance premiums, any subscription that is genuinely non-negotiable, the ones you'd cancel your social life before giving up. You add them up,
You get an exact number, not a rounded estimate, not a roughly this, the exact number. That exact number routes automatically on payday into a completely separate checking account, a dedicated bills-only account. This account has one job and one job only. It pays bills, full stop. No debit card linked to this account, no spontaneous transactions. It exists purely as a fortress with walls around the most critical financial obligations in your life. The rent always gets paid. The lights always stay on. Your baseline survival is mechanically guaranteed regardless of what happens to your impulse control this month, regardless of how chaotic work gets, regardless of how your mood is on a random Wednesday. Think about what that actually means. You can have an absolutely catastrophic month. Maybe you're stressed, you make terrible spending decisions, you blow everything you intended not to blow, and your rent still gets paid, your car insurance still runs, your minimum debt payments still hit because the machine already handled it, before you even had the chance to make a mistake. This is the account that permanently removes "I can't make rent" from your vocabulary, because that money was quarantined from you on payday before your dopamine even had time to notice it was there. Financial security is not about earning more. It is about building a system that protects the non-negotiables from the human. Pipe 3. The guilt-free zone. This one is my favorite, and I think it's the reason this system actually works long-term when every other approach eventually collapses. Whatever's left in your primary checking account after Pipe 1 and Pipe 2 have fired, that is yours, completely, unconditionally, with zero tracking required. No categories, no allocations, no mental accounting about whether this counts as entertainment or dining or personal care. It's just money, your money, and you can spend it however you want. You want to go to dinner 3 times this week? Go. You want to blow $80 on something slightly ridiculous? Blow it. You want to buy the thing you've been eyeing for 2 months? Buy it guilt-free today, because you have already taken care of your future. You have already protected your baseline. Everything remaining is consequence-free. Because here's what most people don't understand about sustainable financial behavior. Restriction breeds rebellion. This isn't a controversial claim. It's one of the most replicated findings in behavioral psychology. The same mechanism that causes crash dieters to binge. The same mechanism that causes people who swear off alcohol to drink twice as much next weekend. When you build a financial life around telling yourself no constantly, every day, every transaction, you are wiring your brain to associate money management with deprivation, with joylessness, with effort. And eventually, maybe in month 2, maybe in month 6, you will snap. You will have a forget it moment, and you'll blow more in a week than you saved in months. Emphatic but not aggressive. The guilt-free zone is the circuit breaker that prevents that from ever happening. You are not restricted. You are liberated, because the system has already done the responsible thing automatically. You didn't have to be the responsible one. The machine was. So now you get to just be a person, spending freely, living normally, enjoying your life, and knowing with complete certainty that your future self is being taken care of in the background. No spreadsheet, no app, no end-of-month guilt spiral. Just spend it down to 0 if you want. The machine already won. This is the psychological genius of the system. It doesn't fight human nature. It doesn't moralize about it. It weaponizes it. You get to enjoy spending, but only after the system has already secured everything that matters.
Now, let's talk about what those 15 minutes on payday actually look like, because I want to be completely specific here. No vague advice, no just automate things. A literal minute-by-minute walkthrough. This is not a metaphor. This is a routine. Step 1. You get the notification. The paycheck is in. You feel the dopamine. And now you know exactly what that feeling is and exactly what it wants you to do with it. You acknowledge it. You do not open Instagram. You do not open a shopping app. You do not text your friends about weekend plans. You open your banking app with one specific purpose. Step 2. You check the automated transfers. Pipe 1 should have already fired. Your investment transfer is gone. Pipe 2 should have already fired. Your bills account is sitting at exactly the right number,
ready for the month ahead. You are verifying the machine, not operating it. This takes 90 seconds. You're looking for two things: that the correct amounts left and that they landed in the right places. If they fired correctly, and they will because you set this up properly, you feel something unfamiliar. Not anxiety, not guilt, not the low-grade dread that normally accompanies opening your banking app. You feel calm because everything important is already handled. The month is already structurally sound. Step 3. The credit card clear. If you carry a credit card, and for most people in their 20s and 30s, you absolutely should be, for the cashback, the consumer protections, and the credit score building, you log in to the credit card portal. You pay the statement balance in full. Not the minimum, not a good chunk of it, the full statement balance from the baseline account. This takes 2 minutes. This is important. The statement balance is what you spent during the previous billing cycle. It's already fixed. You're just clearing it. Paying the statement balance in full every single month means you are extracting every benefit the credit card offers: the rewards, the purchase protection, the fraud coverage, the credit history, and paying 0 interest, ever. That is not credit card debt. That is a free financial instrument that your bank is subsidizing. Step 4. You close the app. That's it. 15 minutes. Financial management is complete for the month. From this moment forward, for the next 28 to 31 days, you don't need to log into your banking app with any anxiety. You don't need to do mental arithmetic at a restaurant to figure out if you can afford the starter. You don't need to lie awake at 2 a.m. running numbers in your head, because you know the answer to every financial question for the rest of the month. If the money is in your primary checking account, the guilt-free zone, you can spend it. If it's not there, you can't. That's the entire decision framework. The system made every other decision on payday morning before you were even fully awake. Think about the cognitive load that removes. Most people carry a constant low-level financial anxiety with them everywhere. Every transaction is a micro-stressor. Every time they open their banking app, there's a slight brace, a wondering what number is going to greet them. That is an enormous amount of mental energy being spent on something that should be settled, structured, and finished. The Payday Protocol turns financial management from a chronic background hum of stress into a single, bounded 15-minute event, once a month. Everything else is just living. Now, one honest, practical note. Setting this up takes longer than 15 minutes the first time. I'm not going to mislead you about that. You need to open the separate accounts: a brokerage or ISA for Pipe 1, a second checking account for Pipe 2. You need to calculate the exact baseline number. You need to log into your bank and configure the standing orders or automated transfers to fire on payday. You might need to call your bank if their app doesn't support scheduled transfers elegantly. That whole process might take a Saturday afternoon, maybe 4 or 5 hours the first time you do it properly. Here is the ROI on that afternoon. 1 afternoon of setup, decades of automation. Every single month for potentially the next 35 years of your working life, the system runs silently in the background, accumulating wealth, protecting your baseline, and giving you full permission to live freely with the rest, all without any additional input from you. If that trade doesn't seem obviously worth it, I genuinely don't know what would.
Here's what nobody tells you about money. And I mean nobody. Not your school, not your parents, not the financial content that's been optimized to make you feel like you're learning something while selling you a budgeting subscription. The goal was never to be the person who knows the exact price of everything they bought this month. The goal was never to color code a spreadsheet or feel like a failure every time you bought something that made your life feel good. The goal was never financial asceticism. The goal is freedom. The actual, tangible, psychological feeling of not being terrorized by your bank account, of not doing frantic mental arithmetic when a bill arrives, of not lying awake doing financial postmortems at 2 in the morning wondering where August went. That feeling of freedom has nothing to do with how much you earn. I want to say that clearly because it is the most misunderstood thing in personal finance. People believe that financial peace is a function of income, that if they just earned a little more, 10, 20, 30% more, the anxiety would lift.
But that's not what the data shows, and it's not what anyone who's ever gotten a significant raise and still felt broke can tell you from experience. Financial peace is a function of architecture. It's a function of whether your system is set up to handle money correctly, automatically, before your human brain gets involved and makes things complicated. And here's the brutal irony. The financial industry has sold you more complexity as the solution. More tracking, more granularity, more friction, more apps asking you to categorize every transaction, more guilt about every coffee, every dinner, everything you bought yourself. As if the problem was that you weren't monitoring yourself closely enough. As if the solution to being ruled by your own psychology is to make the psychological battle harder and longer and more daily. It's not. The solution is to build a better system. One that works whether or not you're in a good headspace this month. One that protects your future automatically, structurally, mechanically. One that gives your present self full, guilt-free permission to enjoy the money that's left. The three-pipe system does exactly that. Pipe 1 grows your wealth, whether you think about it or not, compounding silently in the background, month after month, decade after decade. Pipe 2 keeps your life structurally sound, whether you're disciplined this month or completely overwhelmed. And Pipe 3 gives you something that most financial advice refuses to give you: genuine, unconditional permission to be a normal human being with your money. You are not building a budget. You are building a machine. And machines don't have bad months. Machines don't get stressed or tired or tempted or distracted. They just run. Build it once, trust it completely, and then put your energy into the parts of your life that actually deserve it. If you've made it this far, you're already operating differently to most people around you. The understanding you have right now about dopamine, about Parkinson's law, about why discipline fails and systems win, most people never arrive at that. They spend decades fighting themselves over money instead of engineering their way around the fight. That gap you now have, it compounds, just like the investments in Pipe 1. In the next video, we're going to go deeper into Pipe 1 specifically, because invest 15 to 20% raises the obvious follow-up question: invest in what? We're going to talk about index funds versus actively managed funds, why the data on active management is genuinely shocking, and how to build an allocation you'll be comfortable leaving untouched for 20 years. After that, we're going to cover the credit card strategy in detail, including which cards are worth carrying, how to stack cashback and rewards without ever paying interest, and why your bank is essentially subsidizing your spending if you play this correctly. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell, not because it helps the algorithm, but because what we cover here is the kind of financial thinking that used to require an expensive financial advisor, and I'm handing it to you in 15-minute videos. And if this video gave you one real shift, one moment where something clicked, share it. Send it to someone who's been stuck in the payday cycle, someone who earns well and still can't figure out where it goes, someone who deserves to stop lying awake on a Tuesday night running numbers. Build the machine, trust the machine, and then go live your life.